is ABC-7 Extra.
It is Sunday, December 25th. Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. Good evening and Merry Christmas to you. I'm Stephanie Guadian. The future of the downtown arena project remains in question. While residents of El Paso's Union Plaza celebrate the council's decision to change the arena's location, others worry about a possible move to the downtown convention center. Council voted to move forward with a study to see if the convention center is a good site for the area. However, not everyone was on board. The vote was 4-2 in favor of that study. City Reps Emma Acosta and Claudia Ordaz voted against it. Carl Robinson did not vote, and Michael No left the meeting early. He told me today he did so because he was not comfortable with those proceedings. Well, more than 50 people addressed the council during public comment at Tuesday's city council meeting, most in an attempt to save the Union Plaza neighborhood. Residents and activists, they put up a fight for their community, the homes, and their history. ABC-7's Stephen Decatur shows us what happened.
What we're seeing is a disaster of city council.
The city council meeting started off with public comment.
What you decide, the precedent that you set there, will affect us all.
Nyland, the representative for the arena site, was called out on more than one occasion.
We have to grab Courtney Nyland's editorial and throw it in the trash.
And it eventually got to her.
And so it made me feel really bad today.
But District 2 Representative Jim Tolbert arguably caused more controversy with this.
If you'd listen for a change and stop being such a...
Okay, hold on, Mr. Tolbert. That's not called for.
Cussing out one of the arena opponents.
That was not called for, sir.
Now, if you will stop...
And then the doors closed.
The City Council of the City of El Paso may retire to executive session.
And after 4 hours, the announcement.
The motion does pass.
Thank you.
Victory for the residents of Duranguito. But the recall for Courtney Nyland remains.
Actually, no. I'm actually not backing down one bit.
Michael Patino, the man who started the recall petition for Nyland, is also the man who was cussed at by Tolbert.
And I'd like for District 2 to take heed that this is their representative representing their district. Is this what you want in City Hall?
But this moment,
it's like getting Christmas early.
And that was Stephen Decatur reporting for us. My guests tonight are Michael Patino, thank you very much, community activist, and we just saw some video of you, and also former Mayor John Cook. We begin, though, with Mr. Patino tonight. Thank you very much for being with us. So are they still celebrating in the neighborhood tonight?
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, Merry Christmas, El Paso. Yes, eventually, yes, my whole community is celebrating, but we understand, you know, we have to be vigilant to anything coming towards the future.
And some people have said, you know, have you maybe just postponed the inevitable with all the development going on in downtown? Are you worried that something like this could happen again in that neighborhood?
I got clarity from City Council that this would not ever happen again in Union Plaza, Duranguito. And again, if any talks or any ideas come to light, we would actually like to be informed first and see what their plans are. Otherwise, we'd confront them head on.
Of course, city council members change over time. I want to ask you, because you don't actually live in the footprint of the original location for that downtown arena, why did you get so involved and so why were you so passionate about this?
Again, Stephanie, this is my neighborhood. Even though, you know, it's out of the master plan, it's still considered Union Plaza. And again, my neighbors, I live there, they're almost like family. So again, I would not like to see my grandma put out, you know, in the streets, my grandfather be put out in the streets during times like this of holiday cheer, you know.
And we do have some video of that neighborhood. I think we're going to go ahead and show that so you can see what exactly we're talking about. So tell me a little bit about the people who call this neighborhood home.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are actually elderly people, and they live under, you know, economic resources. And again, we take pride in our neighborhood. We actually took a lot of time to clean up the neighborhood. We've actually created an injunction for a gang affiliated to be actually excluded from our area due to the fact that's how bad it was. We've cleaned up our area. We've taken the time, the senior citizens and all the residents of Union Plaza, and working with conjunction with the commercial end as well, because that's what we coincide with. The neighborhood is mixed use with commercial and residential use. And I've grown fond of my neighborhood, and I'm not about to let somebody just try to buy us out.
How do you think in the end you were able to convince enough city council members to change their minds, change the location of the arena?
Again, we've come to the point where we've talked about it, and we've asked, City Council to change their mind. We've voiced our opinions very strongly, and all these fictitious meetings that they've had have actually not proven anything, because if you check back on the records, these city council meetings or their meetings, town hall meetings, you will find that none of the residents that signatures would be found on these forms due to the fact that none of them attended. And I'd like to specify that these neighbors are all Spanish-speaking languages, and none of that was actually done as well. So we asked, next time, please use your dialogue, the native tongue of El Paso, which is Spanish and English, and other forms of residents that do live in El Paso have their voice to be heard. So,
and the video that we just saw was of some of the protests that you were involved in?
Yes, I spearheaded most of the protests due to the fact that it seemed like they were not going to stop, and we were again trying to be an opposition for being heard, and we obviously do have rights. We have tools in our tool chest. Let me ask you real quick, because we
have to move on. What about, you started a recall against Courtney Nyland, and things seemed to change pretty fast after that. Now that you have what you wanted, why are you continuing with that recall?
Again, no transparency from our district representative. There's no communication. There's no dialogue between the residents or her constituents. And again, her constituents are upset. If I'm upset as a concerned citizen, I'm pretty sure the rest of El Paso and District 8 is upset with her for not taking the time to listen to the community and her constituents.
Well, we certainly thank you very much for coming by and sharing your experience, and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
You too, Steph. I really do appreciate being here and expressing my my opinions. And again, I am recalling Courtney Nyland. There's no change on that. So you could contact me at 400 West Overland or 915-633-4754.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, former Mayor John Cook weighs in on why he thinks the arena/convention center is not a good idea. You're watching ABC-7 Extra, where news comes first. And welcome back. So what happens if the city decides to build the downtown arena at the convention center location? The convention center has some 25 conventions already booked through 2021, and right now there are more questions than answers for those who could be impacted by the convention center being torn down, possibly for years.
They shut down a major artery downtown and everyone feels it. So, if they were to shut down the convention center, it'd make a pretty big impact.
Roberto Espinoza, the owner of Patafu, a restaurant in downtown El Paso, is bracing for what could be a drop in business. He and others with interest in downtown are still trying to digest the news the new arena could possibly be built where the convention center is now located.
So many unknowns that it's very troubling. How would this impact the economy? Right now, the downtown economy relies heavily on the convention center traffic.
And what about the convention center itself? Destination El Paso General Manager Brian Crow has a lot of questions.
Can will the building remain operational? What would the footprint be? Are we talking about 2 different facilities on this campus? Are we talking about 1 facility that's going to serve 2 purposes? What are the benefits and what are the positive negatives of such a design?
The convention center hosted 121 different events this year, including a Jehovah's Witness convention with some 5,000 attendees.
On average, a convention delegate generates about $278 per day that they stay in El Paso, and that could direct gross economic impact to our community.
Crow says some of the larger sporting events and conventions really won't fit anywhere else but the convention center. As for the smaller events,
there are certainly some events that take place at the convention center that could possibly be located to other indoor facilities like hotels, hotel ballrooms, or smaller meeting facilities throughout the El Paso area.
a potential loss in downtown customers that for Espinoza adds up to?
I think that's like 75% of our business.
And welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. My second guest is here tonight with me, and he's the Marriott Courtyard consultant and former El Paso Mayor John Cook. Thank you very much. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much. Well, let's start with, tell me about your connection to the Marriott Courtyard Hotel that is under construction and near the convention center.
Okay. Well, I have a company called Strategic Solutions Consulting, and we work mainly on intergovernmental issues. Mr. Scher, the person who's building the Marriott Courtyard, Urban Courtyard Hotel, hired me to lobby the city council members to try to get some tax incentives in order to help defray the cost of the construction.
And that happened?
And that happened. I went and I met with all the council members, met with city staff, helped negotiate the contract, which is called the 380 agreement. That 380 agreement has obligations by the developer to hire so many people, have so many hotel rooms, provide so many amenities that are in the hotel itself. And then also, on the other side of the coin, the city is giving up some of its ad valorem taxes for a period of 15 years and a portion of sales tax. In addition to that, because of a bill that was pushed by our state legislators in Austin, it's called HB 1964, we were able to tap into the state's portion of the sales tax and the hotel occupancy tax. So,
and that is if the hotel was built within 1,000 feet of the convention?
It has, the restriction is, and this restriction is not just centric to El Paso, it's 1,000 feet from the property line of the convention center to the property line of the hotel. So one of our concerns, quite frankly, Stephanie, is that if the council decides that it wants to tear the convention center down in order to build a new convention center slash arena, if they do that, then we don't think we qualify for the state incentives. Now, the state's portion of the incentives was $4 million over a 10-year period. So losing that is a big concern. Now, the city council has told us, don't worry, we'll make sure that you're treated fairly. We made a commitment.
How would they do that? How would they make sure?
I'm not sure how they would. I mean, they can't come back and say, well, we'll give you our portion of the hotel occupancy tax because you won't need the hotel if you don't have the convention center. That's where 90% of the business at the hotel comes from, is people who are doing business at the convention center. So if you lose that, then you're going to lose the city's portion of the hotel occupancy tax, which that should be very concerning to the city, that they're going to lose that, not only at this hotel, but also the Doubletree Hotel, the Indigo Hotel, the Camino Real Hotel. And so even if we lost the $4 million without a convention center for a number of years, and I don't know, what did it take, 3 years to build San Jacinto Plaza, which was a one-block area? Now, how long is it going to take to demolish the convention center, to design a new one and build it, and a new arena? And how much is all that going to cost? And remember, who pays for that? It's the taxpayers.
And the longer we wait, the more it costs.
Right. And you can see, I mean, the Fed is already talking about raising the interest rates again. They just authorized the first raise that we've seen in quite a while. So these interest rates they fluctuate. And you can tell just by what happened with building the baseball stadium that waiting a couple of months ended up costing millions and millions of dollars. And the baseball stadium compared to an arena / convention center is minimal. So I mean, you're at risk of losing a lot of money.
Would you
and
be
the
happy?
private sector folks are also at risk of losing a lot that they've put into investing in downtown. Remember when we came up with the downtown plan, we talked about where convention centers should go, where arenas should go, where hotels should go, where banks should go, where the retail sales should go. We talked about all that and went through a long process that involved the community. Some people were unhappy with the plan. Others embraced it. Once the plan was in effect, we saw that most people, even if they were against it at first, saw that we didn't really abuse eminent domain like they were afraid we were going to, and they were pretty happy with it.
Are you angry? Because, I mean, this really, at least in your opinion, was a done deal with the city.
No, I'm not angry. I am somewhat disappointed. I mean, that now if you're talking about building where the convention center is, I think that is a bad idea. Now, can they build it somewhere in the downtown area? There may be several others. City Council took away some of their options when they restricted their study to be within 1,000 feet of the existing convention center campus because there were some properties across up on the other side of Paisano Street which might have housed the arena portion. It wouldn't have been as beneficial because it wouldn't have had the same benefit that being right next to the convention center would be. The reason is when I was president of TML, they told us we could not have, that's Texas Municipal League, we could not have their convention come here because we didn't have enough downtown hotel rooms and our convention center wasn't big enough to do both the exhibit hall and the meeting space. So if you had
the dual
thing, you had one center that was right next to another one, you could do that. So that was part of the original plan.
All right, I got to take a break. Bottom line, you think there are some other options out there for the downtown arena other than the convention center?
Yes.
All right, you are watching ABC-7 Extra. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everyone, to Sunday Extra. Again, joining me, my guest tonight, former El Paso Mayor John Cook. I want to ask you a question, your opinion on something. Earlier this week, ABC obtained video of 4 city council representatives gathered in a parking lot, looks like outside of City Hall, the day before the same 4 held meetings with members of the Historic Commission, and those meetings were to discuss a change in the location for the arena. They were Courtney Nyland, Peter Schwarzbein, Lily Limon, and Jim Tolbert. They can be seen in that video. Is there any problem with the 4 of them meeting outside in a parking lot?
Technically, no, because of the issue of a quorum. The city council's quorum would be 5 members of council, either the mayor or council members. So they didn't reach that magic number, which was 5. And the fact that they were out in the parking lot, it might have just been serendipitous. That's where they all parked their cars, and they may have, I don't see them meeting with each other in their offices together very often. So it might have just been serendipitous that they met out in the parking lot where they had parked their cars.
What about the meetings that followed the next day, the same 4 meeting with members of the city representatives meeting with members of the Historic Commission? There have been some accusations that they were trying to avoid what's called a walking quorum by having certain representatives come in and go so that they never reach that magic number of 5.
Well, they'll have to consult their legal staff for that, but that's called the daisy chain or a walking quorum, where the intent is not to violate the law, and I think specifically that they could be in jeopardy. I think there's several ethics complaints that have been filed. So we just let the ethics complaints work their way out and see what happens with that.
Were you surprised by the City Council decision to go ahead and change the location?
Yes, I was, and I understand, there was a lot of emotional pressure that was put on the council members when you had about 50 or so people get up and give heartbreaking stories about what we had done to their health, and what kind of a Christmas present was this that the city was giving them. But I do remember that City Council voted unanimously to use eminent domain in order to acquire properties in that area. So I was really surprised that the majority of the council actually changed their mind. I was also surprised that Dr. No did not attend the full meeting.
I talked to him today, and he told me why. He said he simply did not feel comfortable in the proceedings and what was happening, and especially given the meetings that had happened the previous Friday, meetings that he was not invited to.
Yeah. Well, technically, I think, where they allowed the comment to take place was in call to the public. Call to the public specifically is for items that are not posted on the agenda. So they should have moved all the items that related to it, specifically items 16.2 and 3 on their agenda, and executive session item number 2. They just should have said, well, you know what, we'll take call to the public later, and let's move these items up because so many people are here to talk about them.
They were in executive session for 4 hours.
Yes.
What are they allowed to talk about in executive session? Legal advice? And I mean, is there room for debate? Are they allowed to do that?
They're not allowed to debate in executive session. They're allowed to ask for information. For example, they could have asked for, well, what is the financial impact going to be if we take this off the table? How much money have we already spent? What are the legal ramifications? There were some threats that people were going to file lawsuits against the city if they went through with their plan. So all of those were things that they could ask. Saying it's also property acquisition is allowed to be discussed. Real estate transactions are allowed to be discussed in executive session. They could have taken testimony from staff on that, but it's not an opportunity for the council members and the mayor to debate items in executive session. They already took all the public comment. Now they're trying to get advice from staff, and specifically legal staff.
Speaking of legal, do you think there is any chance that we could see some lawsuits maybe from the hotels that could be affected should the convention center be torn down?
Well, my client hasn't indicated that he is looking at filing a lawsuit, and he's an attorney, so I mean a very successful attorney who's done very well at filing lawsuits. He hasn't given me any indication that that's on his radar. He seemed to be happy that when the mayor and council said, don't worry, we're going to take care of you, we negotiated with you in good faith, and we're going to live up to our end of the bargain, is basically what they said. Now, how they're going to do that if we don't have a convention center is going to be pretty difficult.
And if you were still in office, how would you do something like that?
Well, if I was in office, I probably would have bit the bullet and, you know, gone through the pain. I don't think the outcome would have been quite the same. And I know that disappoints a lot of the people who live in that neighborhood. But most of the people who gave testimony, even if they do live there, they're not property owners there. So this should have been we should have been talking to the property owners. It's my understanding that most of the property owners actually were willing to sell. Probably a good percentage of them were. Not all of them, but a good percentage of them were.
Okay, well, thank you very much for talking to us tonight. I know the convention center is not a for sure. We'll have to see. They're doing the study to see maybe there's some other sites out there. We will see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you very much.
Once again, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Guadian. This has been ABC 7 Extra.